Hi, my name is Johnny McEldry, and I will be doing a presentation on interpersonal communication. So let's jump right into it. What is interpersonal communication? Interpersonal communication is a subset of communication in general. The main characteristics of interpersonal communication is that the people involved are contacting each other as persons. It is the process by which people exchange information, feelings, and meaning through verbal and nonverbal messages. It is face-to-face communication. So basically, it is your listening, your speaking, your nonverbal, and your verbal skills mashed into one. Communication has a lot to do with the verbal aspect of things. I have a favorite quote by Mother Teresa, which states, "Kind words can be short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless." And this ties into the language. Language, from this perspective, is a system made up of different kinds of words and rules governing their combinations. Continuing, voice. Voice, there are elements to this, and the technical term is called paralinguistics. And they include the rate of speech, pitch, variations, volume, and vocal quality. An example, if you think about your perceptions of someone who speaks really, really rapidly or very, very slowly, this gives a person a sense of how rate affects communication. Continuing, words. Words are phrases like, "Do you get what I mean? What would you give me? Why won't you give me the answer?" And no, I'll get it myself. These are all gestures that are connected not to the conversational topic, but to the other speaker. Therefore, this adds to the important social content to the conversation. Content separate from what is contributed verbally. Let's get into the background and behavioral blends of the personality test Uniquely You. When I took this test, it said that I was an ISC or ICS, which basically means that I am inspiring, submissive, and calculating. I believe that people are demanding. I believe that people don't expect you to be domineering or demanding. I tend to be more passive, but I can be very active and outgoing when it comes to inspiring and influencing others. I can be sensitive and supportive, competent and compliant. I am very challenging or defiant unless people try to change the rules or facts. It also says that I would rather work with people than be by myself, except when I'm preparing to study or to gather more information. I don't want to be in control or aggressive, but I like to please others, especially through my friendliness and research. And this is what is expected of me. The other part of the graph that this is me states that I'm above the midline personality type. I'm an overachiever. I tend to kind of be all four types. In other words, I can be D, I, S, or C. Above the midline, or that indicates and motivates to act as each type. I don't necessarily need to be more or one type of the other, but I do desire to strive to be the best that I can be in each one. And I do identify with some of this. As far as the submissive part, I don't think so as much, but when it comes to being an overachiever and being very calculating and inspiring, I do try to inspire people, and I do kind of get, into things as far as trying to make sure things are lined up right. An overachiever, I try to, achieve the best that I can and try to strive to do the best that I can be in everything that I do. As far as the Queendom results for that personality test, it stated that I was insightful. It says that I'm fairly adequate at interpreting other people's words and actions and seeing things from their perspective, although the rare misunderstandings that may occur. Overall, however, I seem to realize that empathy is an essential part of a good interpersonal communication. Therefore, I'll do my best to place myself in others people's shoes in order to understand really how they feel. For the most part, I sense that what others are thinking and will likely adjust to that behavior accordingly with the person that I'm conversing with. And there may be occasions when I pay more attention to messages that the other person is sending rather than how it's received. So with some time and experience, I'll probably improve my insight better when talking and communicating with other people. Communication barriers, listening. Now, listening is the thing that I feel like I need to work on the most, which is why I picked that to talk about as far as the barriers I feel that's within my interpersonal communication skills. There's a myth that only speaking presents power. Talking is used to gain power, to punish, to relax, and to conceal or reveal. Not talking to someone is punishment, and so is not listening. Resistance to listening tends to be our cultural norm. We are often taught that speaking represents action and power, whereas listening connotes as weakness and apathy. Personal competitive needs interfere with taking the time to listen. This kind of thinking results in a negative attitude towards listening, which is often identified as passive and a compliant act, which in our world today, yes, listening can seem as submissive or, not as being in power, but when you listen, you open up so many doors because you can actually understand and really be engaged into what the speaker is saying. If you aren't listening to someone, they're going to likely not trust you, not think that you care, and basically just going to brush you off eventually because you're not engaged in the conversation. So listening is something that I know that I need to work on to be a better person with dealing with the various people that I deal with. And even with speaking, yes, speaking, everyone needs to do that. That's how we communicate in life. But sometimes listening more can be better than just speaking in general. Biased listening. Another thing that blocks listening is when we form opinions about the level and value of what is being said. We will label the information ahead of time as unimportant or too boring, too complex, or nothing new, and we are anxious for the speaker to get to the point. Our listening can be biased because of a negative experience that we had with a person we are communicating with. We often let our negative past experience filters through into a persistent situation. These negative past experiences are held subconsciously in our heads. So basically, when you know that someone is talking about something that you don't like, and that's for me, sometimes I can try to just shut them off and not continue to listen. And just like, well, I'm not interested in this topic, but really it could be something that could be vital to me or to somebody else that I may talk to later on. So I think it is very important that for myself, I not be biased in my listening, that I listen to things full on, whether I'm interested in the topic or not, because it could be something that could add value to my life. An overview of best practices to teaching listening skills by Christopher D. Bonds. He says an effective listening skills are the foundation of learning, but can only occur when the listener understands the intent of the sender and provides the appropriate cognitive or behavioral responses. The International Listening Association acknowledges the universal definition of listening as the the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to spoken and or nonverbal messages. While the holistic definition includes many of the themes and processes of individual listening definitions and skills that are needed for various contexts, especially within the classroom or basically being at work or talking with your friends. Eavesdropping as Listening Development by Kent Alderman. He states, in ordinary life, we are constantly imbued by listening, and we seem to interact in different contextual dimensions of culture and society. Life, by its very nature, is dialogic. To live means to participate in dialogue. According to the Russian scholar Batikin, in everyday life, we get used to many kinds of situations where we hear conversations that we are actually not supposed to hear. That's basically like eavesdropping. Even though that's being nosy, I'm guilty of eavesdropping or listening to somebody other's conversation. So that's a part of listening skills. I mean, even though it's not my conversation to be in technically, it could be something that could be vital to a situation that might happen or something that I could learn from, even if it's not something that I'm really supposed to be engaged in at that point. Resources and strategies. Self-disclosure and the benefits of it. What is self-disclosure? Self-disclosure is the revealing to another person how you perceive and are reacting to the present situation and giving any information about yourself and your past that is relevant to an understanding of your perceptions and reactions to the present. Effective self-disclosure has a number of characteristics. The benefits of self-disclosure. First, you begin and deepen a relationship by sharing reactions, feelings, personal information, and confidences. Second, self-disclosure improves the quality of relationships. Third, self-disclosure allows you to validate your perception of reality. So basically, when you're talking to someone, like I talk to my friends, in a situation where you're communicating, sometimes you have to break down that wall and self-disclose to someone else, especially with, a best friend or a close friend. You feel comfortable disclosing what's going on in your life, because if you don't disclose and you're supposed to be really close, it can put up a barrier like, okay, do you trust me? Is the relationship working out? And you should be able to share personal things with that person, because there's different dimensions, I feel, to different relationships. You're going to share more with your best friend than you will with an associate, or you're going to share more with your mom than, let's say, a teacher. So having disclosure in a very close relationship is very important. And also for husband or wife, boyfriend or girlfriend, you're going to disclose more to them than you would just disclose to just, a friend or whatever. Continuing resources and strategies. Empathetic listening and the benefits of it. What is empathetic listening? Empathetic listening, this is the stage that listening refrains from judging the talker and places themselves in that other's position, attempting to see things from his or her point of view. Benefits of empathetic listening: may solve the problem of other people, giving people a chance to talk through their problems, may clarify their thinking about the subject and provide the necessary emotional release. Can reduce tension. It gives others a chance to get their problems or viewpoints off their chest, clearing the air of tension and hostility. So empathetic listening is really getting deep into the conversation with whoever you're conversating with. This can be from an intimate relationship to a friend to a best friend, associate, maybe not so much them, because that's really personal and engaging. But it is definitely good to kind of put yourself in that person's shoes and try to understand. You sometimes won't ever understand, what a person's going through because you've never been through that. And I've been in that situation, many of us have. But if you can console them, letting you know that you'll be there for them and that you've got their back no matter what, that's the most important thing that you can do as far as empathetic listening. Just letting the person know that you're there for them through anything. That's the most important thing for empathetic listening. My action plan. What will I not do from now on? TLC, listening without agreeing. While listening, you are supposed to stay focused on understanding the other person. If I am inwardly or outwardly agreeing with that person or even considering whether I agree or not, then I am all in my thoughts and not the speaker's. So agreeing is talking and not listening. To the speaker, the pressure to agree is often strong. I may think agreeing is supporting the talker and think that's what they want, but the long run, when I stop listening, I stop listening, which won't help the talker. It will most likely make them mad. So basically, if I'm not listening, it's going to upset that person because you're supposed to be the person that they're coming to for their issues or whatever's going on, even if it's happy things. Like that person, the listener, is supposed to be engaged in what the speaker is saying. So that is something that I try not to do now, is listening without agreeing. I don't want to just agree with them with everything, because that's not something that they always need. Also, moving on, I'm going to use a technique called Pebble in the Pond. This is listening by bringing what the talker said up again later on, which creates rings in the pond. This will make it clear that I have heard what the talker has said and taking it seriously. So let's say I'm conversating with someone and they're talking about something that happened 5 hours ago, but now it's later on, and I'm reiterating what they said, letting them know that I listened to them and that I hear what they're saying and that I'm engaged, or I was engaged in what they were talking about with me. So, for wrapping this up, I will always have an open mind to improve my interpersonal communication skills, especially when it comes to my listening. This will not only help me with my personal and social life, but my professional life as well. So I just wanted to thank you for listening to my interpersonal communication presentation.